Hey there. So today I want to talk to you about sensitization to revving up engines. I want to tell you how mine happened and how it has going so far. So during COVID, I was staying inside my car, and I was parked under a bridge most of the time because there were only prostitutes there. But I was also getting gang stalked. So during this time, there was, I don't know if it was one, I don't know if it was many, but for like a couple of months, every day, almost like one on the minute, you would have a car stop by and rev the engine inside the tunnel, loud, again and again and again and again, and at least I feel that it was like for months. Um, and so they began doing it really loud to a point where it actually began causing a knot on my throat. It made me just feel with concern, but I had these really good Shure SHURE earbuds, the ones that are like in ear, and they blocked out most of the sound, but I could still feel the vibration. It was kind of annoying, but I learned how to ignore it. But then it's that began to happen in a lot of other places. So when you are I was sensitized the moment I began interpreting any other loud car engines. Trucks have loud engines and they rev up loudly. So I began interpreting any type of loud revving engine as a gang stalker, and that's that's just how it is. Right now I notice it. I notice the revving of the engines, but it's the first thought that comes into my head. It's not, oh, it's a gang stalker anymore. So I think that's what it is. So they have to make you repeat the same thought with the same sound or the same trigger. So it slowly starts changing your perception of mundane events. So for example, this is how the sensitizing works for everything. But the revving up engine is something that is very easy to understand. So this is the mechanics behind it. So it's, you're there, and you have this narrative behind that you're getting followed, and there's a group of people against you, right? So now someone else is that has been clearly shown to be part of that group is loudly revving their engine in such a way to annoy you. And that is the thought that they're doing it on purpose to annoy me. They're part of the gangstalkers. So then that same thought is going to start repeating every time you hear a loud revving engine, and then they do that a lot for weeks, and then your perception, as it changes, so you kind of become passive in that, and it becomes an automatic thought. They're a gang stalker and they're doing that to bother me, and they repeat that. So then your perception of things is changed because your thought pattern was changed. So you start attributing, when you hear the revving up of the engine sound, you start attributing it to gang stalkers, and that's what it takes. So then it doesn't, it's not in your control, because it's almost like a you link it. It's the to the thought is linked to the sound, and when that happens, it's you're done in the aspect that, unless you realize what is happening, and unless you are very aware of how your thought patterns are changing because of the gang stalking, you are pretty much effed for a long time. um to me, that was the one that was done a lot, and I'm telling you this from experience, because before, every time I would hear that, I would feel anguish, I would feel anger, and then I would also have that thought. The little voice in my head, my internal monologue would be like, "Oh, that's a gang stalker, and they're doing that to bother me." And then when their conditioning stopped, that just became an automatic thought. So most people are not aware of their thinking patterns. They're not aware of what they're thinking. I wasn't. I am only now because I have to be, because it's the only way that I'm gonna stay out of the gang stalking illusion. You know, just like with the headlights, they bright the headlights on you is called brighting, and they do that until you start putting together their gang stalkers. They want to bother me. You start building a they. And then you start to, well, they're doing it on purpose. So now next time you're driving and someone just brights their lights, you don't know if they're trying to tell you something, or you don't know if they are just trying to bother you. They're trying to signal something. And before the gang stalking, you would not think that they're following you. You would think, oh, they're telling me something. Maybe I have a headlight not working. But after gang stalking, your interpretation of that changes to they're bothering me. They wanna, I don't know, make me have an accident or something. And even though as absurd as it might sound, that's actually how it works. So you're being sensitized to a lot of different things that are mundane. And the thing is that if you're not aware or of your thinking, you're just letting your subconscious mind run, which is the case for most people, and it was for me. You are going to be unknowingly be be made to perceive things differently. And gang stalkers themselves told me, what they say, perception is reality. And what they're doing is that they're trying to change your perception on things. Now, this, it's pretty much, it starts, they build it up from zero. First it's this, then it's a grin, then it's a headlight, the car door slamming. Then they start adding colors, they start adding a lot of things. So that's how they do it. They start adding and adding and adding until you start interpreting every single thing as be getting gang stalked. Your interpretation of reality changes. You start interpreting yellows as oh, they're wearing yellow to abuse me, as psychological abuse. You start thinking, oh, they are slamming their car door, their car doors, because they want to bother me. They're revving up their engines because they want to bother me, and that starts accumulating. It's like they add on abuse on top of abuse on top of abuse, and that's why a lot of people go crazy, because they believe that everything that they have been sensitized of to is part of the is part of the abuse. So they just feel like that. Like, that happened to me with a hat. So that's the thing, is that once you start seeing once there's enough things layered on top of each other, you start getting the sensation of getting gang stalked for a lot of random things. Like if you see someone else wearing a hat the same color that you're wearing, your brain is gonna automatically assume that they're part of the gang stalkers. So gang stalking pretty much makes it makes you make connections where they're not any. And it but it's not because you're crazy. It's because they know how to change your interpretation of things, and they do it part by part by part by part. They do it slowly, and it takes years. And the thing is that if you don't know how that works, you're effed. You're doomed to forever assume that a lot of these things that are mundane are part of a group of people that are looking for your demise. They make living life awful. And and yeah, so just keep in mind that if you start interpreting coughing as as part of gang stalking, please try to not see it from that in the beginning. Like keep trying to doubt that reality. So for example, if people are coughing a lot, um ask, you can, if let's say like for my coworker, that I have two workers that are always sniffing and are always coughing, and when I was during the gangstalking, they, even though they were participating, they still were coughing and sniffing, and with allergies, and from then on, even when the gangstalking wasn't active, they were still having allergies, and when the gangstalking perception was fading away, the knot on my throat, the discomfort that I physically felt whenever I heard any of those triggers began going away. And even though the thought, the remnants of the suspicion that there were gangstalkers is still there, but I'm observing them more, and there's no malice in them, in that aspect. So they're I was speaking to them, and then yeah, I may began making fun of them because the cough sounded so fake, but in reality was that it is, I was too confused, and they actually have allergies, and they come and go. It was winter, it was allergy season, and then it stops, but then you start doubting it, and the thing is that even when you're sure that they're doing that to uh to abuse you psychologically, why would you want to even keep that perception? Why would you want to keep a perception that creates discomfort, if even if it was true or not? They're trying to keep to push a perception on you that is not true. Why are you gonna keep it when it's uncomfortable for you? If your job is to try to keep the perception to a perception that makes your life better. You have a choice of deciding, well, how do I want to perceive the coughs, in a way that is bugging me or in a way that isn't. So what you have to do is to try to look for reasons of why it is not part of gang stalking. So you have to keep, let's see, like for example, with the revving up of the engines, you think, okay, they were about to leave because they were at the taco shop, and they're driving a really loud car, or they're driving a sports car, and that's how they do. They're young, and they always trying to rev up their engines because young people think it's cool, or even older ones. So you have to start adding points to the perception of why gang stalking is not real. Why would you want to be convinced that it is? Like someone who obviously wants you to think that it is, because they want to destroy you. So your job is to destroy that perception, and to come back to reality by peeling all of those layers of misperceptions that have been imposed on you, that are destroying your life, that are making every day uncomfortable. Seriously, even though gang stalking is real, it is. I know. Why would you want to keep the perception that a group that actually have malice towards you are trying to impose on you? Your job is to, so look, the perception is of your mind. It's not up to you. Obviously, it can be modified, it can be manipulated into perceiving things differently. And this is how you manipulate it. You have to build more points of data of why that isn't true. So for example, for a while, I never reacted to to uh to anything that the gangstalkers were doing. At least I reacted as less as possible. So I never got to the point where they killed my patients and I blew up. That never happened. It happened, but in very minuscule bouts that were imperceptible to them. Well, I'll tell you about them later, but there were two times where I kind of went off. But it was only twice out of 6 years, which I'm pretty proud of. Anyways, um, so it was it was what was I going to talk about? Wait, give me a second. Bring up the engines, cough. Damn it, hold on. Okay, yeah, sorry, I remember now. So I every day felt like if they were trying to have me act crazy because they were done to have me blow up in a way that was significant and that would make me look like a crazy person. And every day, to be honest, I felt like I was getting there. There was a moment where I actually put a Facebook post that I was being followed, but then I took it off right away. Um, anyways, so I saw people that came into work who looked upset and their eyes were red. And you know, for the longest I thought that they were just upset because another day had passed, that they hadn't finished me, that they hadn't finished my patients. And then I remembered when I was in high school, I took welding and I didn't wear the fucking goggles. So I remember my eyes got all red. And then the customer came in the auto parts store, and then I saw him, and my first thought was they're upset because of that. And I asked him, let me ask you something. Are you a welder? He was like, yeah. So I, so the, he was there looking upset, not, and with his eyes red and watery, not because he was upset I, that I, that they didn't, that it was yet another day within the first 4 years that they weren't able to do anything to me. But, you know, I perceived that along the narrative of being gangstalked. I perceive him being upset and being mad, which I reasoned why those his eyes. I reasoned that his eyes were red and watery because they weren't done with me yet. You know, that they had to keep working at it. And but I made the connection. He was probably a welder because that makes more sense than him being upset at me. I don't know who this person is, and I was right on the money. He was a welder, and his state of being had absolutely nothing to do with me. But gangstalking makes you interpret everything within the lens of gangstalking. You see reality differently. So that is why gangstalkers are able to tell what you're thinking, because they have that lens. They know exactly how you're looking at life, what lens you're looking at life through. So, which is exactly why when you're driving somewhere and you see that all of a sudden there's a lot of traffic, they see that you see reality within the lens of gangstalking. So you're going to feel that the traffic is there, that all the gangstalkers are getting themselves together to build a lot of traffic so that to make you late, to make you get to where you want to go late. When in reality, it's just there's traffic there at that time. But you are being conditioned to have an alternative narrative to your reality. And then you start interpreting everything through the lens of gangstalking. It's a filter. It's a filter that changes how you see everything. It changes how you interpret everything around you. And even though when you think that they haven't done anything, but the thing is that you're not going to notice it unless you watch this video. Okay, I think I have to go now. Bye.